Next we're going to look at how to solve quadratics by completing the square. First we're going to go over the steps for completing the square, and I've actually got some fun pictures to help you remember these steps. So first you need in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is called our constant, and it needs to be equal to 0. First step in completing the square is to make a 1. You want to make that coefficient 1, and the way we do that is by dividing by whatever a is. The way I remember that is I think of a1, steak sauce. So there you go. Next step is to move the c over the other side, and you do that by subtracting c from each side, which kind of moves it over. The way I remember that is I think about the person that I know that moved the c, and that was, of course, Moses. There's Moses moving the c. Next step is to add half of b squared to each side of the equation. This is actually the step where completing the square gets its name, because that's what we're doing there. I do not have a great picture here, so here's half of a b in a square. At this point you've completed the square, and now you've got some that you should know how to solve by factoring into a binomial squared, and then you can solve it using the method of square rooting. So let's take a look at how this works. Here I've got the steps over here to remind us. First step, steak sauce, make a 1. So to make a 1, I divide everything by 2 on the left side of the equation and the right side of the equation. That gives me x squared plus 4x minus 1 equals 0 divided by 2 is, of course, 0. Next step, move c. So right now c is -1, so I'm going to move c over the other side by adding 1 to each side. So I get x squared plus 4x equals 1. Next I'm going to do half of b squared, and I'm going to add that to each side. Well, right now b is 4. So I'm going to take half of that, which is 2, and I'm going to square it. And I get 4. So half of b squared, so I did 1/2 of 4, and I squared that. And then, oops, I squared that. When you square that, you get 4. And I added 4. Now if I add 4 to this side, I also have to add 4 to this side. Right? Now, the reason I did that is because now the left side is actually a perfect square binomial, which means it factors really nicely. So my next step is to factor it. And it actually factors into, well, I get an x here and an x there. 4 is made from 2 times 2, and then 2x plus 2x gives me 4x, and you'll see it actually factors into a binomial times the same binomial. And over here I have a 5. So because this is a binomial times itself, I can actually rewrite that as x plus 2 squared. So I've factored it, and now to solve that, we're going to use the method we just did in the last example, where we actually square root both sides. So I square root this side to get rid of the squared. I square root this side, don't forget your plus or minus. The square root gets rid of the squared, and I get x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 5. Subtract 2 from each side, and you get your answer. X equals -2 plus or minus the square root of 5. So there you go. That is completing the square.